Hello, everybody. Dr. Rick Wallace checking in with you from the Visionetics Institute, the Odyssey Project. I want to talk with you now today about fading in fear and the power of paradigms and how they're related. Before I do, I want to remind you, if you look in the post area, the description area, the post area, depending on what platform you're actually watching this video on. If you look in the post area, you'll find a questionnaire for those who want to take advantage of the free rapid change coaching sessions that we're doing right now at the Visionetics Institute. It's actually been a success. We started at the beginning of last week. The first week was definitely a success. We're looking forward to actually amping it up a little more. We're not sure how long we'll be able to do it because it definitely requires some time, because I'm actually doing all of the sessions. They're not being passed off or outsourced to anyone else. I'm actually doing them. So it's obviously only so much volume we can take with everything else that's going on, but I'm enjoying it. We're experiencing some unbelievable shifts. And so it sort of kind of set me up as I'm finishing up Critical Mass, which is book number 20. I'm so excited about that because this book is comprehensive in helping people engage change in a positive direction, accumulating and bringing together all of the components that ultimately will culminate in your success and however you define that. So I'm excited about that. But if you want to participate in the rapid change, I also have one that's for business owners. You can go to the site and check that out as well at rickwallacephd.link. You can do that. But fill out the questionnaire, email it to the email address that's listed, and someone will get back in touch with you to schedule an appointment. Also, don't forget, because in celebration of the release of Critical Mass, which is scheduled now for February 16th, we're doing a sweepstakes for everyone who pre-orders the book. You enter into a sweepstakes, and there are 4 prizes, and I think they're listed in the description box as well, or the post box, wherever you, depending on what where you're watching this at. So got that out of the way. All right. I'm pretty sure most of you have heard the phrase or term paradigm shift. Paradigm is used in a number of different ways to explain a certain concept or an idea of human behavior, human thought, human perception. And I teach as a part of the program at the Visionetics Institute, I teach people how to shift their paradigms, to change their paradigms. And we're going to talk about how paradigms are developed, how you shift them. I'm going to give you some insight, and hopefully you'll leave here with the ability to do some things that you weren't or unaware of, that the fact that you were able to do before you tuned in here. But anyway, your paradigm set your perception. They set the lens through which you view life, how you view the world, how you see the world impacting you, how you view yourself, and you see yourself impacting the world. And it sets your paradigm. Your paradigm is going to determine whether you're a victim or a victor. Your paradigm is going to determine whether you are consistently angry, upset, frustrated, stuck, whatever, or you are always striving for whatever. Your paradigm set that, but your paradigms start early in life. And if you don't develop a capacity to shift those paradigms, you limit your ability and capacity to grow and move towards something. And what I try to get people to understand early on is, while this initial shift in paradigms is going to create an unbelievable shift in results, you should also gear yourself to be in a position and open to shifting your paradigms consistently, because as you grow, as you change what you're aspiring to, you're going to have a need to shift paradigms again, because that every new accolade, every new aspiration, every new pinnacle that you begin to reach for requires a new paradigm, because the idea, the thoughts, the beliefs, and everything associated with doing what's necessary to achieve it exists in a new idea, a new paradigm, a new way of seeing things. And the reason that you don't have the things you want is because you have not yet embraced it and become what's necessary. And that's because of a paradigm. So you have to address your paradigms consistently so that you're always open to growth and shift. One of the worst things that happen to people, and we're literally conditioned to do it in this culture, is to get locked into a paradigm. We get locked into paradigms early in life, and we're holding paradigms that we were given when we were 3, 4, 5 years old. So how are paradigms developed? Let's talk about this real quick. This is, not going to be a quick run through. This is probably not going to be one of the more emotional driven, inspirational, but you know me, I don't know what's coming, but I'm trying to organize it. So I actually made a few notes because there's some points I want to deliver, because I want you to be able to take what I'm giving you and organize yourself to see what's going on, and what you can do about it. Okay, you have two minds. You have a conscious mind and a subconscious mind. Your conscious mind is your thinking mind, your mind that's been educated at different levels. It's consistently being educated by the information that it's exposed to, one way or another. It's the intellectual part of you. Your conscious mind has the capacity to choose what it wants to do, what it doesn't want to do, what it wants to believe, what it doesn't want to believe. It also has the ability to accept and reject information as it comes in. Then you have your subconscious mind, your emotional mind, as it's referred to oftenly. Now, the emotional mind is the exact opposite of the subconscious mind is the exact opposite of the conscious mind, in that it cannot choose what it chooses to receive and accept. It cannot reject. It also cannot determine the difference between what's being imagined and what's real. Now, that can work with you or against you, depending on where you're at and how you determine you want to use your mind to control your destiny. So you have both. Now, what's important to understand is, while you have a conscious mind that basically sets the standards, sets the goals, sets the aspiration, it's what chooses your goals. It's what chooses your idea of what you want. It's what determines what you want out of life. But it doesn't have the power to give it to you, because where it can choose and elect and decide, it only controls about 5 to 10% of your total behavior. Your subconscious mind, on the other hand, controls 85 to 90% of your behavior or more. And it has the capacity to process, along with the non-conscious brain, 400 billion bits of information per second, where the conscious mind and the conscious brain only can process 2,000 bits of information per second. So you can see where most of your behavior, most of your thinking, your sub-level cognitive behavior and ideas and all this stuff that's flowing around is actually taking place in the non-conscious brain, or the subconscious mind. And that's where all the stuff is happening. So what you're feeding your subconscious is what's ultimately going to dictate how you engage life. It's going to set your paradigms. And how paradigms are initially set is, you have a child, an infant that's born into the world. And at the time, their consciousness is almost at zero. Eventually they get to the point where they're aware they exist, but they're initially no consciousness. So they are completely open subconsciously to all the information that's fed to them. They're taking in environmental information, what's around them, the energy that's around them, the words that are being said. Even though they don't understand them, they can detect through energy what those words mean. That's why warmth, love, and affection is received differently from a baby than hostility. Even though the baby can't understand a word you're saying, they know the difference because it's instinctive. It comes from the subconscious. It's actually it's actually interpreted from the subconscious. Anyway, you go on, you study feeding this kid. Well, eventually the consciousness sets in. So now the consciousness is taking and using what it's been given, but the paradigm is set in the subconscious mind. All this stuff that it's being fed. Now, it's being fed this from a number of different places. It's being fed this from parents, siblings, and other people in its environment, what it hears on the radio, what it sees on the TV when it's old enough to actually sit up and look at it. All of this information, if it's environmental, if it's in their area and they can hear it or see it, taste it or feel it, it's being fed into their subconscious, and it's developing a paradigm. That paradigm is going to determine how they engage life, whether they are fearful, whether they are courageous, whether they like this, whether they don't like that. All of these different things are set, whether they're going to view life as something that they have control over, or whether they're going to view life as being helpless and a victim. All of this is being set by their paradigm. So the parents, the primary label givers, the one that's probably going to control the most of the information that's being fed into their subconscious initially, plays a major role. Now, fortunately, those paradigms aren't locked in, although most of us live as if they are. You can shift the paradigm, but you have to be willing and consciously willing to take the steps necessary to engage the discomfort that comes with shifting a paradigm. And that's what we're going to get into real briefly. So you have this subconscious mind. Now, what happens is you develop this paradigm. The paradigms are what govern your perception. It also manages your behaviors, because we're talking about the subconscious mind. Now, here's the problem. If you go into any room, and I'm not speaking from empirical evidence as much as I'm just speaking from experience and just having observed it over time. If you go out to any room where there's a group of people, whether it's Starbucks, and you got multiple conversations going on, or it's at a game, or it's in a hall, or whatever, wherever it's at, the chances of you going in and finding some really challenging and exploratory conversation where people are really engaging new ideas, new brilliant concepts, things of that nature, is very low. Most of the time you walk into a room, the conversations are very, very low frequency, low vibration, meaning that it's just talking about what's going on now, a lot of chatter. But that's what most, now you have to understand, why is that important? Because your mind is taking that in, not your conscious mind. Your conscious mind is probably ignoring all those conversations, but your subconscious mind hears it. It hears every last one, and it has the power to process all of that. Now, what you have to understand is, when you're doing this, you're feeding your mind all of this negative chatter or noise, because it has no real intrinsic value. Nobody's talking about doing something extraordinary. Nobody's talking about examining what's possible in their lives, or what's possible in the world, how to address a need or find a solution to something. They're just talking about, a lot of people are talking and complaining about their problems. A lot of people are talking about what they can't control. A lot of people are complaining about the politician they hate the most, or they're celebrating the politician they love the most. So they're talking about things really out of their control, instead of talking about and examining the power they have to change the world around them solely through their own energy and efforts. And what happens is that we're trained that way. One of the greatest failures of the public system in the US is it doesn't teach children how to shift paradigms. It doesn't teach them how to think critically and determine whether they like something or not, and then take the necessary steps to change. That's not what you're taught. You're taught to fit into the box, stay in the box, don't challenge the box, and to the point that anytime you make a move to get outside of the box, you become uncomfortable and you move back to the box. That's what paradigms do to you. They take you to this big, huge wall of nothing but fear. And the fear is simply because you don't know what's on the other side, but you know it's got to be something more. Now, what's on the other side is freedom, but freedom comes at a price. Now, you got to get through the wall, but that calls for a paradigm shift. This is why most people never change. Most people never get results. They make a decision that they want to step outside of this paradigm, and they're going to go do something different. They're going to move to a new town, start over. They're going to start a business. They're going to get in a relationship. They're going to go back to school. They're going to leave one job, go to another. They're going to something. And then all of a sudden they get ready to do it, and something set in. Well, what actually sets in is, we are at our very core, every bit of us, we are energy. We are a molecular structure from the biological part of us on through. We are energy. And this subatomic energy that the body emits it based on your thought processes of where you are right now. And actually, there's the nervous system, and the central nervous system is the most unbelievably complex mechanism known to man. There's no supercomputer on earth with the inner workings, inner electrical workings, or whatever you want to call the boards and all that stuff in there, that can compare to the nervous system and the neurological makeup of the body. What you are actually saying when you say I feel a certain way, you're actually explaining your vibrations, because your thoughts are going to determine the frequency you're functioning on at any given time. And that frequency has a vibration, and that vibration has with it a physiological expression, which we will call a feeling. If you're on a certain vibration, you have anxiety. You're on a certain vibration, you're elated, you're feeling strong. You're on a certain vibration, you feel real calm and confident. And so what you want to do is you want to find the level and vibration that emits the type of energy that resonates with the things you want, because you only attract what you're emitting. And so you tend to be a person who's nervous all the time or anxious all the time. You tend to attract things that keep you nervous and anxious. That's why you find people that's always angry, people are always sad, people, are always in these states that create this cyclical process. And so you have to find a way to understand how you're doing that. And that's the energy you're emitting. You are an electrical mechanism. You are emitting energy. Your thoughts are dictating the level you're emitting it at. Here's the thing. In order to go after something new, you've got to change the energy. But the problem is when you get to this wall of fear, you fade back. You fade in fear from what's on the other side, because the discomfort that comes. What is the discomfort? Well, what happens is when you get constantly in a paradigm, like anything else in life, you go to the gym and you bench pressing 100 pounds. Eventually, you're going to get to the point where you throw that 100 pounds up and it doesn't really even have an impact on you. You get into a situation where you move from the south to the north. That first winter is going to be a beast, but that 20th winter up there is not going to phase you. Why? Because you're adapting to it. You're changing. Well, if you're in any situation long enough, you become comfortable with it. It may not be the situation you want, but you become comfortable with it. And one of the things that happens why people never change and never go after anything new, never do anything different to elevate themselves, they become comfort, and they associate comfort with being okay. So you can actually be comfortable with something and not be happy with it. And that's the misunderstanding. See, a lot of people are not happy with the results they're getting out of life, but they're comfortable with it. Well, let me explain something to you. As long as you are serving a paradigm that celebrates or desires comfort, you're never going to change, you're never going to grow, you're never going to advance yourself, because that requires discomfort. That requires you coming out of your comfort zone. That requires you going after something that you're not familiar with, and you get afraid. And what happens is when you hit this wall, and it's there, the moment you say, I'm going to go out and start a business, you know that you're going to have to invest some money in it, some time in it. You may even have to walk away from your job from it. That feeling you get of anxiety is actually the nervous system experiencing the change in what you're aspiring for and what you actually hold a paradigm for. Your paradigm says, I'm a worker. Your paradigm says, I'm not built for relationships. Your paradigm says, I can't make more money. Your paradigm says that this, and all these things. And so you live in that because that's your paradigm. It dictates your behavior. It dictates how you perceive things. Your perception is your reality. So you keep living it over and over again. Well, to get something different, you have to move out of that and start thinking about something. The moment you think about something else, you now have a conflicting idea that you're entertaining that conflicts with the paradigm. That shows itself and expresses itself in your nervous system. That anxiety you feel that you associate with fear is simply your body expressing the conflict of what you're aspiring to and what you're actually living in via paradigm. The way you get rid of the discomfort, the way you get rid of the anxiety is you train and shift your paradigm so that your paradigm aligns with your new destination, your new goal, your new idea, the thing you're now striving for. When you look at something, you say, this is what I want. As long as you're just saying it, you won't get the discomfort. It's not until you emotionally engage it. That moment that you sit up and say, you know what, it's possible. I think I'm going to do it. That moment, you're going to feel it. That moment that you actually seriously consider doing something new, doing something better, challenging yourself, you're going to feel it, an uneasy feeling. And you're going to, oh my God. And it's going to make you step back. And the longer you take to engage this new idea, the less chance you have of actually engaging it, because the more fear grows. See, I forgot who was it. Was it Norman Vincent Peale or George Bernard Shaw? One of them said that when you travel to the center of fear, you find that there's nothing there except fear feeding on itself. Fear is this self mechanism that really doesn't exist. It's just an expression of the anxiety that you feel when you start to challenge the old paradigm with a new one. And see, you've got to get through that. You've got to sit up and say, you know what, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And then you, at the same time, have to be shifting your paradigm, because that discomfort, if it's not dealt with adequately and appropriately, is going to cause you to bounce back. And here's the thing. You've been there. Everybody's done it at some point until you learn how to master this. You sit up and you say, you know what, I'm going to go out and I'm going to do this. And you get excited about it. Sometimes you're going to buy something, but you know what you're about to buy is, pretty far out there on cost, and it could impact your bottom line. But you really, really want it because it could do something great for your business. It can do something great for your home. It could take the value of your home up, or whatever the situation is. Are you going to go out and you're going to start dating, or whatever the situation is, you're going to make this big decision that's going to totally be different than what you've been doing. And you make this move and you start to get this real anxious feeling, and you get ready to go for it, and you get ready to go for it, and you keep trying to convince yourself to do it, but you can't. So eventually, after a while of trying to convince yourself to do it, you fade back. You fade back and just go back to where you were. And the moment you get there, you feel comfortable. And you go, That's because you're back in that old paradigm that's challenging the new idea. The only way that you're going to ever feel any type of and you shouldn't want to be comfortable, first of all. Comfortable, that whole comfort thing will lock you into where you're at now. If you're comfortable, you tend to become complacent. You tend to become, okay, this is who I am. I'm gonna just smooth roll in here. And you don't even realize you're actually regressing. So you should always be challenging yourself. You should always feel a certain level of urgency. I don't like to use the word anxious or anxiety, but you should feel a certain level of urgency tugging at you every day, challenging you to step out and do something more than what you're doing. You should always have this sense and a need to grow and become something and someone that you're not now. That's a responsibility you have to the designer, is to every day be better in who you are holistically than you were the day before. And you've got to do that intentionally. That's not something you wait on life to teach you organically. That's something you set your state, say, you know what, I could be better here. I could be better. I could be doing better here. I could be doing better in my marriage. I could be doing better in parenting. I could be doing better in my career. I could be doing better as a business owner. I could be doing better in my finances. There's so many different areas that I know I could be doing better at. There's not one person on this planet, please hear me, there's not one person on this planet that cannot live the life they want to live. The problem is they're not willing to engage the discomfort. They're not willing to challenge the current paradigm. They're not willing to actually set standards that rise above their comfort zone. They are more inclined to comfort than they are being at the peak of who they are designed to be. There's absolutely nobody, I don't care where you come from. I have dealt with people with Down syndrome. I've said this before. I've dealt with people with Down syndrome. I've dealt with people who were negligibly mental retarded. I've dealt with people with autism. I've dealt with people who come from poverty. I've dealt with people who didn't have a father or mother. I've dealt with all different types of situations, people who were struggling with different types of diseases. I've dealt with them on numerous levels, and I can tell you I have yet to meet a person that didn't have a unique genius inside of them. That's something about them that they were uniquely gifted in, something about them that set the standard of who they were to become if they were to engage it. And then it's about tapping into it. The problem is that we grew up in a society that standardizes our behavior and our performances. Everybody's set on the same grading scale. Everybody's judged on the same standard of performance and behavior. And at the same time, being average is acceptable and passing. If you're average in school, you got a C. It's acceptable. You pass, you graduate. But C doesn't perform in life. D and C doesn't translate to performing in life. Now, I'm not celebrating the academic system, but I'm speaking of the concept in which it operates. You should always be striving to be excellent. The only thing that should be accepted is excellence. The only thing that should be demanded is excellence. When you walk in and say, I got a C, I'm going to pass. Yes, you pass. So let's say from kindergarten through the 12th grade, and even into college, you can get by being average until you get into the world, and now they're demanding excellence. See, they don't want average dealing with their customers. Your clients don't want average, showing them what it is you do or doing for them what it is you do. You don't want an average plumber showing up at your house. You don't want an average landscape guy showing up at your house. You definitely don't want an average roofer showing up at your house. So it's not even what you do, it's anything you do. When you sit down with a financial planner, you don't want an average financial planner. When you sit down with a life coach, you don't want an average life coach. So where does average show up and perform at in life? It doesn't. But for the first 20 years of your life, you're trained that average is acceptable. That's a paradigm that's set, that's hard to break. You don't spend the first 20 years living by it. Nobody's ever took the time to identify what you're great at, what you're naturally gifted for, and to teach and to serve that to grow it. Now, you should be growing in every area, but you should definitely be shining in your area of giftedness. And you have one. You have an area of genius. I don't care who you are. Some are gifted with numbers, some are gifted in music, some are gifted with creativity and abstract thought, some are gifted with organizational. I mean, some people are just natural. I mean, you put them in a room and they will sit up. Matter of fact, some of the kids I work with autism can organize some things in ways you haven't thought without even giving it a second thought. And when you can sit up and teach them how to harness that and show them how to use that, they become extremely gifted and now they have value. See, it's about adding value to your life by tapping into the thing you're naturally gifted with and just determining how you're going to serve the community and the world around you by answering a demand or providing a solution to a problem. You're in business now. The moment you're able to answer a demand or provide a solution to an existing problem that has to be solved, you're in business. Now it's just determining the model, setting everything up and going, but it comes from shifting paradigms. We have paradigms that hold us in place. We're more concerned about comfort. Like I said, you've got to be willing to overcome that moment in time where you're talking about your feeling. Like I said, whenever a person says, I feel a certain way, they're really explaining or describing the current vibration level they're on, the current frequency they're on, where they're at. They're telling you what frequency they're on when they tell you how they feel. That's all they're doing. They're describing in their own words and the way they know how to describe their vibration, their energy. And see, most people aren't even aware of what that means. And one of the things that I had to learn in over time and just growing who I was and what I want to do, my thing is I want to help people change their life. I've always been that person. Look, if it's something I can say to you, it's something I can do to help you. And the more I began to learn about human behavior, the more I start to look. And I would have never thought 30 years ago that physics would actually play a role in this, but quantum physics plays a major role in understanding human behavior, because what we find in quantum physics, at the end of the day, when you get to the subatomic level and you start to move in and you discover that everything is energy, you got to remember, everything is energy, everything is atomic, everything is subatomic, and it has different vibrations, different frequencies, different energy. Everything has energy, and like energy resonates, and like energy doesn't necessarily exist in like mechanisms. So you can literally find energy being emitted at the same frequency you're in that's not human. You could be emitting a frequency that is being emitted from something else. You'll resonate with it, and it creates relationship. And you have to understand all of these different things. But what we understand is you're constantly being bombarded with energy. But this energy is coming in as consciousness. And this consciousness has not been shaped yet. That's one of the things we learn in quantum physics, is that you move to a certain subatomic level, it stops being energy, it becomes consciousness, and it becomes neutral, meaning that the consciousness can be converted into the energy, manifesting it into the thing you want. In other words, there's a certain level in which consciousness can manifest and be created and made into anything you want to make it into. That's how the world responds to your faith. I hope I made that connection. That's how the world responds. So when you become confident enough into what you believe you're capable of, there's an energy that is emitted. That energy speaks to the neutral consciousness of the universe and begins to manifest those things that you're not. That's faith. That's you sitting up saying, I believe it, I know it, even though I cannot yet see how it will be done. See, if you can see how it can be done, if you can sit down and you can map it out because you've got all the elements, the components together, you're not operating in faith yet. You're not operating with your ultimate consciousness or confidence. You're simply operating on knowledge. You're still in the conscious mode. It's not until you use your subconscious, the imagination, to create things that don't yet exist, that you sit up and say, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it. And then you step out and you start moving toward it, and you find that the universe is at the same time conspiring with you to bring it to you. Things that weren't happening before you made the decision are now happening. People you didn't know before you made the decision are now calling you. People you didn't know are now sitting up questioning and talking to you, and you're finding out that they know what you need to know, or they know someone who does. This is called providence. The universe is bringing and providing it based on the energy you're emitting, but it all starts with you being willing to shift paradigms and believe that it's possible. You cannot get to the next level without shifting paradigms. So you never, ever really stop. Now, the first paradigm shift is the big one. That's the major one. That's the one that totally shakes the ground on which you rest. Why? Because it's going to challenge so much of what you've lived your life on. But see, if you've been living your life in this place and you look over and you know it's another world over there, and in this world, there are people doing unbelievable and extraordinary things, and you're over here, you've got to do one or two things. You've got to sit up and say, you know what, I'm okay with this. I like where I'm at. Or you sit up and tell yourself that you can't have it, and you become resigned to the idea that it's not for you. And then that's where you live, in this little area. So in order to actually have that, which you can have the life you want, but you're going to have to shift paradigms. You're going to have to be willing to go through the discomfort of engaging some things that challenge you. There are going to be some thoughts that say, okay, if I do this, then that'll happen. You're going to have to get past the fear of whatever that is in order to get to the next thing. It's a lot of you being blocked by the fear of what comes when you make the decision to move. There's something coming. It's going to be uncomfortable because you don't know it. You're going to have discomfort. When you go into a new career, a new job, a new position, that first few weeks, months, or whatever it takes until you get acclimated is a level of discomfort, but it's an advancement. You've got to be willing to deal with discomfort in order to engage advancement. That's life. Most of us aren't willing to do that because we value comfort overall. But you have to be willing to shift paradigms. You have to be willing to sit up and say, you know what? I'm better than this. I'm better than this. There's more to it. And deep down inside, at some point in your life, you've entertained that idea. Probably what came next scared you. You know, you faded in fear because the unknown scares you. You know, which I know right now, if I just wake up every day and I go to work, what I'm going to get. I know right now, if I stay single, I ain't ever got to worry about being cheated on. I ain't ever got to worry about having my heart broken. If I don't have kids, I ain't ever got to worry about this happening and that happening and that happening. And you live a life unfulfilled because of fear. You never go after what you really want inside. Matter of fact, you talk yourself out of it and you convince yourself that it's not that important to you. But at some point in time, you knew it was important. If it was important then, it's now. You just simply filed it away in order to deal with the reality you are allowed to set into your life. Your reality is based off of your perception, your paradigm. If you don't like the reality, shift the paradigm and the reality will change. It will change immediately. Wealth is not the moment that you get a certain amount of money in your bank. Wealth is the moment that you discover it's possible. Yes, the moment you discover that what you want is possible, that reality becomes a part of your reality. Now you're just in different phases and stages of making that reality manifest itself in the third dimension or the physical realm. But the moment you set your mind, you manifest and create. Your thoughts or your mind is the genesis of your destiny. What you're thinking consistently. Now, your paradigm is feeding you and determining what you will allow yourself to think, what you allow yourself to entertain. It's so much more that goes into this. But the one thing that I can, if I can get anything across to you this morning, it's that you have a responsibility to yourself to create a paradigm shift that totally transforms your life. Whatever area it is in your life that you're looking at. And if you're really truly being honest with yourself, because I wake up every day and I've had the undeniable fortune to live life and do and experience some things, and yet I'm not satisfied. There are some other things out there, and I have to challenge myself to become what is necessary to do it, to evolve, to grow intentionally into what it is I need to be honest with myself in assessing where I'm at, and then demand of myself to be what's necessary to go where I desire to go. And that's a constant daily process, but you've got to do it. You've got to be willing to undergo a paradigm shift. It's huge. I mean, it's the beginning of the process with anybody I work at. Getting them to shift paradigms, whether it's addressing limiting beliefs, whether it's addressing how they perceive life, how they look at it, all those things are paradigmatic. And so all of that's what we're dealing with. Matter of fact, the number one selling product or service or course that I have is the Power of Paradigms course. It's also the second most affordable. The most affordable is the single consultation session. But other than that, the Power of Paradigms course, and it's consistent. It's the thing right now. It's pretty hot right now. But that Power of Paradigm course is something that in 30 days, that's what I love about it, in 30 days of consistent engagement. Now that's the thing that we don't do. Number one is we live in a microwave society. If I can't go out and make it happen pretty quick, I get tired of it, toss it to the side, and I look for something different. I look for something new. And that's the problem. It's not going to come overnight. It's going to come by a consistent engagement. What I can tell you is, if you engage something consistent enough over 30 days, it will have an impact on your paradigm. It will have an impact on what you expect from yourself. It will have an impact on what you demand of yourself. And remember, God will only meet you at the level of your expectations. What are you really expecting out of life is what you're really getting. You know, it's not what you wish for. It's not what you fantasize about. It's what you expect. To see, the moment you set an expectation, you also have to set a standard by which you're going to live and operate in order to support that expectation. See, if I'm going to expect something, I have to reasonably be doing something that justifies the expectation. But if I set the expectation and I set the standard, then the behavior will follow along in order to justify it. In other words, the moment I expect it, it means I believe it's possible. If I believe it's possible, my behavior will be reflected in it. It's all cyclical. You get one thing going, the other things start to go as well. You shift the paradigm, you automatically change the behavior. There's a behavioral pattern that's creating your reality. The reality you've been getting over the last 10, 15, 20 years, there's a pattern associated with it. If you sit down with me for 30 minutes, I'll show you the pattern. Probably less than 30 minutes. Normally within the first 5 to 10 minutes, I'm going to identify one of the most powerful patterns in your life that's governing where you're at. It's patterns. The universe operates on rhythm. First of all, there are universal laws. There's rhythm and there are patterns, all governed by cause and effect. When you start to understand the pattern and how the universal laws govern certain behavior, certain movements, and you understand where you're at, you don't like something, interrupt the pattern. Replace the pattern you interrupt with a new pattern. You get a new result. All of this is a paradigm shift. It's changing how I see the world so that I can engage the world differently. Changing how I see life so I can engage life differently. If I continue to see life the way I see it now, I will continually engage it the way I engage it now, because my paradigm dictates how I engage. You wonder why people from impoverished backgrounds that grew up in a world of violence and hostility are less sensitized or more desensitized to violence and more likely to be violent is because their paradigms create that. Their view of the world is through a paradigm of violence. So violence doesn't have the same sensitivity to it applied to it as someone who grew up in the suburbs and you know nobody even got spankings where they grew up. So where we grew up, everybody got their butt whooped, beat, whatever. And so it starts early, that desensitization to violence. That's a paradigm. Violence is a paradigm. How you view it and where you're at on the scope or the spectrum of this one particular paradigm is going to determine how you engage it, how you see it, when you see it everywhere else. There's some people sit up and watch somebody walk up and pop the crap out of somebody and go, wow, laugh, text their friends, tell them somebody else be traumatized. They got to go get counseling. Why? Two different paradigms. How you set your paradigms is going to determine how you interpret life, and it's going to determine your reality and ultimately your behavior. And then at the highest level, your results. You want to change your results, you got to shift your paradigm. That's it. I'm going to go ahead and cut this. But whatever you do, that's something you've got to focus on. You got to focus on shifting paradigms, creating a paradigmatic shift in your life that will support the things you desire. First of all, you got to be honest with yourself and tell yourself the truth. You're not happy with where you're at. If you are, you better ask yourself why. I mean, some of the most successful people that I've met, and I can include myself in this, when you talk to them, while we are grateful for what we've done in the past, or what we have experienced in the past, we're not satisfied with where we're at. We're looking for the next great thing. We're looking to grow and build and do something different. You know, when I get off of here, I'm going to be working on 2 major projects with the Visionetics Institute and another business endeavor I just got into at the beginning of the year. And it's to grow that. And it's going to be something else in 6 months, in a year, and something else next year, and on, and advancing who I am as a person so that I can impact the world around me and be a better servant to the world around me. That's what drives me, is how can I impact the world? How can I leave my imprint on the world? And that should be your goal. Your goal is you have the capacity to leave an imprint on the world that you live in. Those that are closest to you, and even expand it out further than that based on the level at which you exist in your capacity. Most of us are very barely tapping into the full potential we possess. It's sitting there dormant because we don't want to access it, because our paradigms don't support it. You've got to create that paradigm shift. Again, a reminder. Also, you can the link to the course, The Paradigm Shift. The Power of Paradigms is actually in the thing. But also for those of you who want to experience a rapid change session with yours truly, where we're just going to sit down. Now the session is a 30-minute session, but anybody that's gone through it over the past week, we started this last week, will tell you that every session is going that I've done has gone over 30 minutes. One of the reasons is I always make it a point to deliver more value than I promise. And even though this one isn't being paid for, I just make it, if I'm saying I'm going to do something, I try to do more than what I say I'm going to do. I try to over deliver in everything. And that's how I set my goals. So, but let's just say 30 minutes, you're going to sit down and we're going to find one thing that it is that you say you want in life that you haven't yet gotten. We're going to identify what the problem is. We're going to identify what you can do to get through it. And we're going to let you leave that with an idea of where you're going and the ability to set your gate. And where it goes from there will be up to you. But this is my way of doing something to reach a part of the demographic that I don't normally reach in a number of different ways. So I'm excited about that, but definitely do that. But whatever you do, you've got to challenge yourself to be more than you are today. Tomorrow, when you wake up, you want to look in the mirror and see someone that's evolved a little bit in the right direction in comparison to the person that went to sleep. Or the person that woke up the previous day is a better way of putting it. you should see some growth. You should see some progress, and you should demand it of yourself. And so, like I said, I would love to sit down and work with you guys, those who are willing. The email is in there. Just fill out the questionnaire that's on in the description. Send it to the email address. Someone from the support team will contact you within 24 hours, set up a time for us to do the session, and you'll hear from me, and we'll do it. Check out the Art of the Power Paradigms course, and check it out. I mean, the thing is, you're going to have to create paradigm shifts. You can do it with me. You can take the course. Now, actually, the course allows you 3 sessions with me anyway. It's a course that you take yourself on. It's a 30-day course, but at 3 points you're going to engage with me, so we can see where you're at, and I can, fill in any gaps. But anyway, enough of that. Go out into life on purpose. Live your life on purpose. Let purpose drive you. If you don't have a purpose, you need to discover your purpose, meaning you need to really truly examine your design. You need to look at yourself and determine why you're here. You're not here just to exist. You're not here just to move through life and just make it. You're not here as some sojourn through life to get to heaven. Stop by. You have purpose here. Deal with what's going on here. Make every moment here count. You have to optimize the potential that's embedded in your design, your DNA. Access it, activate it, and actualize it. With that being said, I'm gonna check out of here. It's always an honor to share time with you guys. You're so awesome. If you only knew. That's the thing. If you only knew what lies inside of you, the things you would do. With that being said, like I said, like I always say, I'm gonna die on E. I am going to die on E. I promise you. I'm gonna give every ounce of me to every second. I tell you all the time, you have 86,400 seconds in a day. How you invest in those seconds are going to determine your destiny. Now it's up to you. Make something happen today. I'm out of here. Peace.